In this episode, I'm just going to explain to you a little bit about watercolour paper, which is, of course, a vital ingredient if you want to be a watercolour painter. So, watercolour paper is specially made paper which will absorb the water and the pigments that we place on it. Now, we want the paint to stay usually where we put it. Watercolour paper, manufactured all over the world. It comes in three basic types. Something called hot pressed, which is basically very smooth paper. Difficult to paint on, but it's perfect for botanical artists or artists that want to go off into extreme detail. But it is difficult to control, I warn you now. The next paper is called Not, N-O-T paper, and that has a slight texture on it. The Not surface is my preferred surface. It gives me everything I need as a painter. My drawing will stay in the correct position. Not surface paper takes the washes very well and usually behaves itself. The third kind of paper is called rough. Rough paper has a very marked texture to the surface, which some artists produce beautiful paintings using rough surface texture paper. However, personally, it's not my preferred brand. I find it personally difficult to maintain the details that I need in my particular paintings. Now, watercolour paper comes in various weights. The bigger the number, the thicker the paper. And that weight is all calculated on 100 sheets of full imperial size paper, which is this size. This size paper is a full imperial sheet. What they do is they put 100 of those pieces of paper together and then they weigh it. And that decides on the weight of the paper that you buy and the thickness. The watercolour paper comes in various thicknesses. The paper I prefer is 200 pound not surface paper. So 200 pound relates to 100 sheets of that particular paper. It weighs 200 pounds and they divide it all up, and that's what I use. The weights go up. You can get much heavier paper, which is even thicker, or much lighter paper. Personally, I would not recommend you painting on anything less than 180 pound paper. Less than that, the paper starts to get very thin and you suffer from cockling and warping of the paper. So stick with 180 or higher numbers, bigger weights in paper. Elsewhere on the IWM TV platform, you will see a beautiful little film made by a company called St Cuthbert's Mill, which is based in the West Country of England. And they manufacture their paper, very old family company, and they take the water from the beautiful River Axe in Devon, and that's what they use to mix the pulp that makes their paper. Look at that film. It tells you more about the paper manufacturing process. Now, you can buy pads of paper as well, and I've got here a pad made by St Cuthbert's Mill, who make the brand Bockingford, and this is called a block, Bockingford block, and it consists of 12 sheets of paper which are just glued together around the edge. So it's quite a nice surface to paint on, especially if you're practicing, and you can make some beautiful little paintings on paper like this. Once you've used one sheet of paper, you stick a little knife in the end there and peel that paper off, and you've got another one ready to go underneath. You've got 12 sheets. This particular block is £140 watercolour paper, but because it's glued together, it's pretty stable. And certainly for a beginner or somebody wanting to practice, intermediary, enthusiast, it's a great surface to work on. So we have full sheets of paper. This is called a half sheet paper because it's half of that size. And another popular size is a quarter sheet, which is half of this. Those are the three main sizes of watercolour paper. Depending on your subject you want to paint, choose the right size paper and off you go and enjoy yourself.